Thank you so much for joining me today. I have the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Yi Wei, and I have been a volunteer with the American Red Cross for 16 years. I am a Mass Care Chief and a watch officer for the Mass Care activities at National Headquarters. I also serve as the Pacific Division Training Event Planner and also Division's Feeding Co-Lead. And for this wildfire season, I will be supporting the External Relations team. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping items. I ask that you hold your questions until the end of this presentation. At that time, you may either post your questions in the chat or raise your hand, and I'll be happy to address them. Your mic and your camera is currently off, and I will be turning back that on once we finish our presentation so you can ask questions. This session will be recorded and will be posted on the YouTube channel under our Pacific Division channel. The link was in the email that was sent out earlier. So today we will review several key systems that support your role as External Relations Liaison. As you may have noticed, the Government Operations Liaison, GovOps Liaison position has been replaced by the new External Relations model, which includes the Executive Liaison Group and the Community Liaison Group. We will not be covering the organizational changes or data sharing process during this session. Our focus today is on the systems you will use to access information once data sharing has been approved by your Assistant Director of External Relations, Disaster Relief Operation Leadership, and/or National Headquarters. So we'll discuss the National Operations Summary, the DCOR, which is the Disaster Current Operations Report, WebEOC, and I'll also be sharing with you how to request for access. We will briefly go over the DOC portal, which is the Disaster Operations Coordination Center portal, and also the Watch Duty app for wildfire monitoring. So hopefully by the end of this session, you will have an overview of these tools and understand how they support situational awareness and information sharing in disaster operations. So let's get started. You can see my screen. The first one, I'm going to minimize my screen. The first one we're going to talk about is National Operations Summary. I preload this, but I'm also going to show you how to get here. So on your home screen for your volunteer connection, right under your name, you can see RC View. So you're going to click on that. Takes a little while to load. So for RC View, you're going to click the National Operations Summary, click here. And pardon my voice, I somehow choked right before this meeting started. Okay, so this is the National Operations Summary, and you can see we have different tabs on the left. The tab 1 is the overall situational summary map of the entire nation. So you'll see different diagrams on there. Those represent the GR levels, and you can see we have multiple level 4s going on, and we have one level 5 that's Spokane and multiple level 2 and 3s. So on here, the first link is click here for the doc portal, which we'll touch later on. There's also a link that says click here for the Disaster Current Operations Report. That is the DCOR that I talked about earlier, which we'll also go over. The one that I'm going to point out here, the one that you will probably be using the most often as an External Relations Liaison will be the Sheltering tab, tab 3. So if we click into this, again, it's going to take a little while to load. So you have 3 tabs here. The tabs we're going to focus on is the first one and the second one, the National Shelter Analytics. This tab gives you the overall overview of the shelters across the nation. You'll see that you're able to filter by DR. So I can pick a DR 542, which is the current Spokane DR. You're able to see this. Let me go ahead and increase my screen a bit. You can also increase your screen if you're viewing on your phone or tablet. That on the very, very bottom left, you can increase the screen size as well. So you can see there is the shelter count, they're decreasing. You can see a breakdown of the county here. The things to keep in mind for this is you'll see here it says the data was pulled at midnight of this morning. So that's when the data is pulled. So knowing that this data is static, it's a data that was pulled when the sheltering team on the DR disaster relief operation that they entered the night before. So generally, the deadline to enter the data is 10 o'clock to SKYA, the shelter client information client intake app. And 11 o'clock is when we enter to WebEOC. When I say we, I'm in the DR, the master team, they'll enter on WebEOC. And past the 11 o'clock local time, that gets pulled and transferred onto the national operation summary. So the caveat here is that if you have an island operation, such as the Senlaku when we had Guam and CNMI or Bavi, those were delayed because there's a huge time difference between Guam and the CONUS. So that's why it's also always important to remember when this data is pulled. Next one, we're going to go to the shelter intake. I pulled this earlier, so we can save in the load time. Shelter intake gives you the specific views that you want to know. So whether that is your shelter client summary, whether that's your demographic summary. So for example, you might want to know that how many clients that you have that are women or men, depending on the services that they need, because sometimes you might need to get clothing for them. We as a disaster relief operation. You might also want to know how many clients we have that they're minor, how many of the clients that we have, they are elderly that are 65 or above, that we might have different resources for them, that maybe we can engage the Office of Aging or all those county resources or city resources to support them. So it gives you the breakdown. It also, you can filter by the DR, you can filter by the shelter name. So let's do the filter real quick. The one thing about this is it takes some time to load. So sometimes you just have to be patient with this system. So for example, this is 459, DR 459 is also within the Pacific Division. So you'll see that currently they have 13 clients that identified as men and 12 clients identified as women. And you'll see that for this DR, as whole, not a specific shelter, they have 2 people that are age 65 and above. So now let's say that I want to know the county specific. I don't only want to know the shelter or the DR because oftentimes DR can have multiple counties, right? For our LA region, we recently merged with the Central California region, so we have multiple counties. So if you're thinking about counties, you can filter by client counties. So depending on, so for this DR 459, they have 3 different counties. So if you click on county specific, you will get a county specific data and demographics. This is most useful when you're sitting in the county EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, and the county EOC staff is asking you that, hey, how many clients do you have at your shelter that is from our county? So you can filter by that. That gives you an overview. This board or tab, unlike the National Shelter Analytics, this is updated every 30 minutes. So relatively, this is up to date. Most oftentimes, when you're on a disaster relief operation, you'll often hear people say or hear us say that, please, sheltering team, you need to complete your 100% of your demographics or complete 100% of a SKYA. And one of the reasons is because they all populate here. If you have a percentage that is less than 50 completed, it does not really tell a story. It tells a story when it's probably somewhere 80% or 85 completed. So take myself, for example, I am short. I am only 5 feet. So let's say if I'm the only one that entered into this data, you would think the median height of the Americans are 5 feet, which is not true, right? So that's why one of the reasons that we need to make sure that we have more than 80% or 85% of data entered is that we can present an accurate picture to our county partners, to our city partners, and to other agencies and partners. So the DRO sheltering summary is the same thing. You will see that for this one that 100% complete the CMIST, which is the communication, maintenance of health, independence, service of support, and transportation. It basically tells us if the person has any access or functional needs. And if we're going to CMIST, you're able to see a breakdown of what the request is, whether that they're looking for a quiet area, whether they're looking for a temperature controlled area, whether they're asking for medications or they need medical supplies. If they need power source plugged in, oftentimes disasters, you experience power outages. So this is something for us good to know. And whether they have service animals or not. Then if we come to the triage part, you can see the triage colors. The colors that we are paying attention to as GovOps, there are mainly two colors that you're paying attention to, which is not really outlined here. One is the purple. Purple color indicates the household was experiencing homelessness at the time of disaster. So when you see color purple on the SRT report or your demographics, the thing that we are thinking of as an external relations liaison is that we might have to engage homeless services, whether it's from the county level, state level, or the city level. If you see red, that's the households that have the most complex needs to transition from the shelter and likely need support from community resources. So whether that's county resources, whether that's community partners resources, they might need resources. So if you're seeing the majority of the color is red or purple, early on in the operation, you might want to engage government partners and agencies and community partners as well. So those are different places that you can take a look. Next, I am going to show another tab. Again, loading, it takes time. On here is resources, whether it's your staffing resources or whether it's logistical resources. So something that we're going to take a look is resourcing. Sometimes when you're at the government emergency operations center, EOC, they might ask you or they might make some request, such as, can you supply, 1 pallet of water? Can you do disaster emergency supplies? Can you do reentry kits for the fire? Do you have Tyvek suit? Do you have masks, etc.? So you're able to come in here into resourcing, and when you have a larger level DR, most likely it's level 4 and above, the National Logistics Center, they will come in here and update this board. So for example, the current Spokane wildfire 452, you'll see those are the supplies they have either en route or they're delivered already. Or that if you're looking at the Bobby DR, which was 501 Super Typhoon Bobby that happened last month, you're able to see what we delivered and what we have. So this is something for our internal awareness. Like I said earlier, we're not talking about the data sharing process. I'm sharing with you where you can get the resource part, the information part. Okay. So we're going to the next part. The next part is going to be the contact center. So this is on tab 5. Contact center is the 1-800 Red Cross. So people will be asking for assistance, asking for resources. Something for you to look at, again, is for your knowledge situation awareness. It does not mean that you're sharing the data with the county agencies or partners without the permission from the DR or the national headquarters. But you can get a sense of how many calls we received, we received 8,362 calls, how many calls were outbound, and you're able to filter by whether they're asking for RC care support, whether we open a case, or they're asking for support with feeding or sheltering, etc. So we're able to better to engage what services are being requested. And if you're seeing a number of high volume of calls calling to a specific DR, then you know that people have high needs. Okay, so I am going to pause here for a little bit to see that if you have any questions that you want to type in the chat while I maneuver to the next set of my screens. Okay, and seeing none so far, and we'll come back later as well. The next dashboard that I want to show you is the DCOR, the Disaster Current Operations Report. Again, you can access it from the National Operations Summary, the second link. So you can directly access there. So I have it open. This is a little different than the overall picture earlier that you saw. This one tells you all the shelters that we've opened, or the kitchens that we've supported, the snacks served, meals served, cleanup kits distributed. So what you can do is you can filter by DR. You can also filter by either to date or yesterday. So let's filter by DR for now. Let's do a pick. Oops. Let's do a pick the 542. I made my cursor super big so you can all see it. But the downside is because it's so big, I'm struggling to click onto the right spot. Okay, so if you take a look at 542, the Spokane wildfires, this is what the current data shows. However, this might not be accurate. One of the things that it might not be accurate or captures the whole story is because how this data is captured. I think one thing that we often get asked by government agencies or partners, or when we do reports, is that sometimes they'll say, well, we heard a different report. The number is different than when you're reporting to us now. Which one should we believe, or which one is right? And in keeping in mind that oftentimes there's not a right or wrong number, but there's a difference between when the number was reported, where you got the source, and whether that number is an actual number or estimate number. So in order to make it to this dashboard, the Assistant Director of Operations or the Mass Care Chief needs to approve the numbers before 12 midnight Eastern Time on WebEOC, which is a different board we're going to talk about later. And if that is entered but not approved, it will not show up on here. So sometimes you might think that, I entered this number, I saw it somewhere, but it's not showing here. Why? It's because of the timeline when the data is pulled. For the DCOR, the Disaster Current Operations Report, this number again is static. It's not a live update. If you want a live update number, you're going to go to WebEOC, which we're going to talk about in just a second. So this is from yesterday's number and also to-date number. So those number might be different than what the government agencies is seeing on their midnight report. It might also be different. It's that what they're seeing or requesting, let's say that they request us to deliver 3,000 snacks at a disaster assistance center. And when they come in here and they said, well, okay, how come it shows 0? I mean, I shouldn't say they coming here. I mean, you coming here because the government agencies, they do not have direct access to this. But so know that when this data was pulled and when you're in doubt, you can click on this question mark. It tells you what is being pulled, so you'll know what each number represents. So now again, I'm going to maneuver to the counting metrics. So I mentioned earlier that oftentimes one single disaster relief operation can cover multiple counties. And County A doesn't necessarily want to know what County B is offering or, how many clients are there. They want to know their own county. So you can come in here to get an up-to-date number, to-date number. Another one that I want to show you is this is something called Print Disaster Current Operations Report. So what you're going to do is you're going to select a DR number. We're going to use 452 again. 542 again. And I am going to click View Report. So again, it's going to take a little time. And now you'll notice that it gives you all those numbers and it has sentences and everything on it. This is usually very great if we're doing any media or anything that, we can post this on social media because all the wordings are there, the pictures are there, the logos are there. Again, take into considerations when the report is pulled. It says here that report was run today at midnight. So this time, the time zone for this report here, it's the Coordinated Universal Time. It's the UTC GMT time. So that is not your local time. So you might want to translate that to your local time, or you might want to put a time zone next to it so you know when this report was pulled. Again, I'm emphasizing on the numbers. The difference between the numbers is because that sometimes either when the data was pulled at a different times, or whether it's a static data versus a live data, or versus when someone is doing an estimate or as planning assumptions, or whether that we're giving actual numbers. Okay, so I am going to the next one. So the previous two that I talked about, the National Operations Summary and the DCOR, those everyone can access that once you request access. You do not have to be assigned to a DR. You do not have to be a leadership volunteer, or you do not have to have division or national access. Anyone can have it once you request appropriate access. However, the next one, the WebEOC, it's a position-specific access. So meaning that you are only able to access this or request for access after you assign to a DR. And my recommendation usually is once you get assigned to a DR on volunteer connection, whether it's virtual or in person, send an IT team a ticket, open a ticket, which we'll go through that in a second afterwards, so you can make sure that you have access before you arrive on the DR. Because sometimes that if we're in a lower level operation or the national level dock is not activated to level 1, sometimes people are off on Saturday and Sundays. So if you're requesting access early on, chances are you'll get it. Otherwise, you're waiting this, Saturday and Sunday, then you're waiting on Monday to get access. However, when we have level 1 activations, which we just came off last week, when we have operations like Sinlaku or Bavi or Helene, we're at dock level 1 activations, and that shouldn't be a problem because people are really working 24/7. Okay, so once you get access, when request access, get access, you'll come in and you'll sign in. After you sign in, please make sure that your position and your DR is you're selecting the correct one. So, for example, this one, I'm currently assigned as the assistant director for the LA operation, and I select a different incident because LA's operation, we didn't have any numbers because we had 0 clients. So again, select a 542 Spokane wildfires just to give everyone an example. So several things that you're going to use and see in this board. So you're coming here to the hamburgers, your boards. We're calling each one a board. So several of them that impact you as government operations liaison that we used to call the external relations liaison, whether it's executive liaisons or community liaison. The first one is FDR. FDR stands for Feeding and Distribution Reporting. So oftentimes the county or city, when you're in the EOC, they might want to know that how many clients you served, how many cleanup kits you distributed. So you're able to come in here and see those numbers. So point out real quick, the difference between this one and the DCOR is that DCOR is static. In order to show up in DCOR, the number has to be entered and approved in time to show this the following day. Versus the WebEOC one, that's live, active. So usually the mass care team enters the data at the end of the day. After they finish their distribution route, they come here to enter it. So you'll see that they served, it's county specific, it's state specific and county specific. So you'll see that they served 713 households and they distributed 6,893 distribution of emergency supplies. So you'll see that it's here. And you're able to go back to see how many, other days that they served. So that's one. Two is this one says feeding. So the example that I gave earlier is that the county requested 3,000 snacks or water that requested to be placed or distributed from the DAC, the Disaster Assistance Center. And now you're coming here just to make sure that, oh, how many was distributed? So you can come in here and see it. Usually the mass care team does not report snacks because snacks are just, automatic calculation. However, if we're doing a dedicated snack run or water run to one of those centers, whether it's disaster assistance center or family assistance center, we should be able to record here as well. So you're able to see what was delivered. Again, is breaking down by county and the date. So it makes easier for you to report when you're sitting in a county EOC, as in how many meals we served, how many shelf-stable meals we delivered, and how many snacks or water that we distributed outside of shelters. So you're able to see here. So that's the FDR, the Feeding and Distribution of Emergency Supplies Board. The next board I'm going to show you is the Shelters Board. I'm hoping that everyone heard of SKYA, which is the Shelter Client Intake app. I hope everyone heard of that. As External Relations team, we do not have access to SKYA. However, we have access to WebEOC, which SKYA, has data in here as well. And the other part that you can see SKYA's data is the National Operations Summary. So if you come to active shelters, again, you would have to filter by incident. Even though the incident on top is filtered, the system is currently set to include every single shelter that is open across the nation. That's, we're actively working on that to see that if we can limit it to the DR only and not showing everything else. So for example, when you come in here, you're able to see that for this DR 576, the status are open, and that's the shelter name. Outside, meaning that they're not staying inside of the dormitory, they're staying outside, either in their cars or RVs. And you'll see the population. The good thing here is you're able to see when this was submitted. So know how that earlier that I said National Operations Summary, the National Analytics, it's a static data that pulled overnight. This is either live or depending on who updated, but at least you can see when it was updated. And if I'm not mistaken, this one defaults to Eastern time. So when you do the update, when you click, I'm sorry, I kept saying you as in as in the external relations team. I mean you as the DR sheltering team, when they come to do updates, they'll select the time, sometimes it auto-populates. So again, the key point here is that when you are giving out the number, you're telling the partners and agencies and also internally that you know when this number was taken. So let's say that maybe the midnight count says 0, and now it's 5:27 at night, and you're looking at 11, you're thinking, oh, how come it doesn't match? Well, because one was overnight, and now that we have more clients, and this was taken 5:27. So this is something that you're able to see. And once you click the view, you're also able to see the address. And you'll see that who updated and what time it was updated as well. You're also able to see a breakdown of the clients. You're also able to see the pet count and the histories. So those are all the information you're able to see. You're not able to edit as an external relations team because sheltering belongs to mass care, and the mass care, they're the people that are responsible for updating that. There's one last board that I'm going to show you here before I open for questions and go to the next topic. Mission Tracker. So Mission Tracker, it's a must for level 4 and above DRs. It's highly recommended for level 2 and 3. which is local and division DRs. And for level 4 and above, you will have a dedicated mission tracker coordinator to be assigned onto the DR. And for local levels or 2 or 3s, that you will people will be doing multiple jobs. So if you might be the government liaison, which is either external, whether it's executive liaisons or community liaisons, or maybe you're the AD of ER, you might be multitasking for that when it's lower level. So this, I am going to pick a random one here. Let me do view. So this is a great example that earlier I shared, that the county or the city, they might be requesting for water to whether it's for distribution center, or whether it's to be a pop-up tent, or whether it's to disaster assistance center. The mission tracker will come in here and put on here the request, 10 cases of water, mission type, which county it is, and the priority and the time frame, and who's the relationship manager, and where they want to be delivered, or the location where they want to either deliver or be present, or whether it's to distribute it. You have the primary contact number. So this, as government relations, for someone that's sitting in ELC, this is for your awareness. Let's say that you made the request, even though you're not the person entering the request, because the mission tracker coordinator will enter the request. You might be thinking that, okay, I wonder what's the status on that. So you can come in here to check live. Something to point out is the Assistant Director of Operations has the sole authority to reject a mission, meaning that it does not mean that if it's on the tracker, it's approved and it can be executed. We as external relations team, we pass it to our mission tracker coordinator. They enter here, and Assistant Director of Operations, AD Ops, they will review it. They'll let you know whether they need more information, or they need more context, or that they need more time, or they're rejecting the mission. It will be listed on here, and it will be communicated through the mission tracker coordinator. So they'll let you know. But for us to be able to see this, is that sometimes when the DR is really escalating, they don't have enough time to tell you all those. So you might come in here and says, oh, okay, I see they're actually working on this. Or that, oh, okay, maybe this is pending. Or maybe that when it's pending for too long, you might want to reach out to the mission tracker coordinator and say, hey, just following up on the status of that. So those are the ones that I'm going to show you for now. I am going to pause and see if we have any questions. I'm going to open up the mic in just a second. Let me maneuver my screen. And there we go. Okay. Any questions, any comments so far before I go to the next section? The next section, I'm going to share with you how to request for access, and also the doc portal and Watch Duty app. Yes, ma'am. Carmela.
Hi, Yui. So for the emission tracker, so who tells the partner if the request is approved or rejected? The ops or the ER person who took the call?
The ER person. So the
Okay.
ops person is the one that has the sole authority to reject or approve a mission.
Right.
So once that's rejected or approved, it's up to the mission tracker coordinator to follow through, whether it's
Okay.
to let the ER team know. When I say ER, I meant the person sitting in the EOC know, or whether
Right.
to let all the other people know, and working with partner mobilization coordinator know. So it depending on that. But ADF ops or massacre chief or sheltering, they're not the communicator. They're the approver, and mission tracker coordinator is the communicator.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Did I make everyone more confused? Or is it too much information all at once? Raise of a hand that how many of you have seen all three boards before? The National Operations Summary, the WebEOC, and DCOR. Okay, one. Mark, which one have you seen? Is it all three?
Yeah, I have seen and attempted to deal with all three.
Great. Okay. Anyone else have seen all three or at least one of them? Okay, see none. Okay, great. Okay, now let me show you. Well, let me go with watch duty. Hi, Crystal. Is that a yes or is that a question?
That was the yes. I've seen one of the screens.
Which one?
That would be the mission tracker.
Got it. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, so before I go to the how to request access, I just want to touch watch duty real quick. We're in wildfire season and we're pretty much all in wildfire season. I don't think we have a season anymore. So we use watch duty to keep track. This is the online version, and on your phone, you'll just simply download the watch duty. And I do believe we have a current fire going on that has evacuation warnings for the LA County. So this is watch duty. The other one that I talked about is the doc portal. So again, I'm going back to the National Operations Summary. I'm coming back to the link to go to doc portal. So usually ask you to sign in, and because I was just there, so it didn't ask me. So the usefulness of this is that two pieces that I usually use. One, I need to minimize this. One is the DRO viewer, the other one is the doc roster. So again, doc stands for Disaster Operations Coordination Center. So think doc. So DRO headquarters referring to for specific DR, right? The doc, think of doc is the national headquarter. So that's what doc is. So for DRO viewer, I think many of you experienced in the past as in, oh, I'm not assigned into the DR yet, or that I haven't arrived on the DR yet. I don't see this IAP, the Incident Action Plan. When can I see it? Well, you can come here and see it. All the incident action plans are here. And again, once you have access to RC View, this is open to all. It's not that you have to be have a special access or leadership volunteers. Anyone can come here and look at it. So usually what I personally do is when I look at the EXSUM, the executive summary that is put by the job director to tell us that what their focuses have been. So if you're working external relations, pay attention to the ESF6 activities, which is mass care and intake. So, look at those and how you can support and how you can have better situational awareness. The other one is when I go to documents, you can see the IAP, the Incident Action Plan. So usually before I deploy that I like to read, well, actually depending on what phase I'm deploying, I usually deploy initiation phase. So most of the time the IAP hasn't come out yet. But if you're deploying at a time that the IAP has published, that you just don't have access yet in your email, you can come here and look at it. I look at the director's intent. I look at the incident objectives, the command focuses, the command emphasis. I also look at the contact roster. So if you come down to, where is my ER team? So if you come down to the ER, and you'll see that many of the name was changed. Like I said earlier, that external relations had a change of structure. So you'll see the mission tracker coordinator. This one has a one sign because this is level 5. So level 4 and above, you must have a mission tracker coordinator assigned. So that's the case here. You'll see the partner mobilization coordinator. You'll see the liaison network officer, which is, I would interpret it as the old GovOps chief. So you'll see all of those here. So that's something that I, would recommend you to do before you deploy. Or even during your deployment, that sometimes, let's say there is a computer glitch or email glitch that you're not receiving the IAP, you can come here to look at it. The other one I take a look myself is the doc roster. The doc roster is whom we contact on the national level. It does not mean that you as an external relations coordinator sitting in the EOC that you are contacting them directly. It's basically for a headquarters team to contact them in case that they have some questions and issues they couldn't solve with the DR itself. So you can come in here to see who the directors are, the operations planning. It tells you who the contact center person is, planning support, current operations, ER sheltering, mass care, etc., disaster assessment. So everyone here is listed. And for external relations, you'll see that who is the NAD, the National Assistant Director of External Relations, which if you are on a DR, a local DR or division or national DR as the Assistant Director of External Relations, your counterpart is the NAD External Relations. Those are the folks that you're able to reach out to when you have questions or when you need your data sharing agreement, DSA, to be approved, or you have questions, etc., that the DR cannot solve. So those are the folks that you can reach out to. Okay, questions on this before I go to how to request for access? If you want to type in the chat or come off mute, either way works. Okay, I think I see none, and I'm not seeing any hands either. Okay. So how to request access? So back to your profile, your home screen for volunteer connection, click on IT Service Desk. Depending on whether you have an active Red Cross email or not, you click the appropriate one. I have an active Red Cross email, so I'm going to click that I have. I do not know why it asks you twice, but it does. So you're going to click here again. You're going to sign in. One of the most important pieces is also to remember your password. Remember your password, your single sign-on information. In the event that you're deploying, that you're not using your own laptop, that really works. That really helps. So instead of looking through all those things and reading which one you should click, what I usually do is I type on the very top, WebEOC. So you'll see that you have two options. One is you report an issue, the other one is request something. And since you're going to be assigned on a DR, disaster relief operation, you're going to click DRO instead of steady state. Steady state is when blue skies, you're doing regular activities with your region. Disaster relief operation is when you're assigned to the DR that you're asking for DR specific access. Click. It's pretty straightforward. You're going to find your name. Your name is usually already there. You're going to sort through your request type, usually is new account, because once you out-process from a DR, that WebEOC access, you lose that WebEOC access. So then once you come back on again, you're going to request for a new account. The times that it will be modifying existing account is when you switch your positions. So let's say that I'm currently assigned as Assistant Director of External Relations, and I'm going to transfer to Mass Care Chief or Assistant Director of Operations. And because the access level is different, I need this to modify my existing account. And removing existing account will be that, maybe you're never going to deploy again, or maybe you're leaving Red Cross, then it will be removing existing account. So new account. And it's going to ask you to type your DR number. So again, remember, in order to request for WebEOC access, you have to be assigned to a disaster relief operation. Your profile, your volunteer connection has to show that you're assigned. You should see your DR assignment on your profile to make sure that you're assigned. So I'm going to say I'm assigned to 542 and 27, and you're going to choose the positions. So depending on what you're assigned as, you're going to click the corresponding positions. So usually we're GovOps. Notice how this one hasn't changed yet. So I'm going to click GovOps, and I'm going to click OK. In this case, I'm not going to because I already have access, but that's how you request it. Any questions on this WebEOC piece before I go to National Operations Summary? I think seeing none. So National Operations Summary, if you remember earlier, the way that I went is from RC View. So the access you're requesting is for RC View access. So again, I'm typing here. I'm not reporting issue. I'm requesting an account. So I'm coming here to do it. submit your request. What kind of action? Again, this is a new account. What kind of access do I need? I just need view. I don't need to create anything. Who is this request for? This request is for me. Notice how this one asks for your region versus the other one doesn't. So this ArcGIS Online, the RC view is region specific. The access, you need region approval to get that. Versus the WebEOC DRO one, it's position specific for the DR. That's why it's not, no one needs to approve it. The IT person is going to check your profile to make sure that you're assigned to the DR under that specific gap in order to grant you access. So for this one, you would have to select your home region on it. And I am Los Angeles region. I'm going to select the Los Angeles region. Your approval manager's name, usually it's your community disaster program manager or your region disaster officer. I'm sorry, I'm usually not too used to say the full name. You know how much we love the acronyms, so I'm struggling a little bit to spell everything out. So you're going to, find your approvers here. I'm going to use Ryan because he's our senior DPM. So I'm just going to select here. And I need to list the reason that I need to view this. So for this specific one, I can list as in, I'm working in the external relations team and I need this so then I can share information or, have situation awareness for government operations or liaisons, etc. So you can put it here. The process, depending on how fast your approver approves it, it can sometimes either be immediate because once your approver approves it, it's automatic. But if your approver, let's say if they're out on vacation, on PTO, if they're not around over the weekend, it might take several days. So if you're engaged in external relations team, I would recommend you to have a discussion with your chapter's DPM or territories for senior DPM or your, or cadre manager, function manager, such as Carmela or Ryan, to see that what your goal is for external relations and to see if this access, that you'll need this access. Okay, so, and once everything's done, you're going to click OK. And in this case, I'm going to click cancel. Okay, any questions on this? Any hands or any? I don't think I saw any in the Q&A. I don't think I see anything in the chat. I don't see any hands. Okay, now the next part is interactive. We have about 14 minutes left, and I have some real life scenarios that I'd like you to answer me. And your role is I will play the county representative in the EOC, and you are the GovOps liaison or the executive liaison or community liaison at the county EOC representing the Red Cross. So feel free to either come off mute to tell me the answer or type in the chat. And remember that there's really not a right or wrong answer. And there's, give us the context. So, don't think that, oh my God, I don't want to say anything because I'm afraid it's wrong. Okay, so the first question is, you're sitting in the County Emergency Operations Center, and the county requested the following data. 1, the number of elderly and youth shelter residents. Because they said partners such as Office of Aging and school district are trying to do check-ins and provide engagement. Where would you find that information? If you can type in the chat or come off mute and tell me where to go, and I'll go there and you will be able to tell me the number. Did I lose everyone? Crystal, go ahead.
Previously, I didn't have access to the systems, and so what I did was I went through my chain of command to go ahead and get all the requested information that the different departments were requesting. So even though I didn't personally have access to the system, it's being able to problem solve really quickly and being able to use your resources in that position to be able to get the information that you need.
Thank you. Okay, I appreciate the context. Now let me say that now you've gotten approval. Your assistant director of external relations gave you the approval, said yes, you can go ahead and share the data with the county. The NHQ, the national headquarters, also said yes, we have a data sharing agreement with County A. Go ahead and give it. And also think that now you do have access to all the 3 systems that I mentioned. And your mass care team, they're not available. They're so busy opening and closing shelters, you cannot find them, or their phone is dead. So where in this situation, which board that we talked about that you think you will find the information? So I see WebEOC, ICC missed, VRC view. I think Stephen is also texting something. Crystal, where would you say that we'll find the information? Is it National Operations Summary? Is it DCOR? Is it WebEOC? Where would you say? Okay. Okay, so Mark, you said WebEOC. Where would you say that WebEOC I'll find the information? So I'll go to WebEOC first. Where would you want me to go to answer the question of number of elderly and youth shelter residents? Mark, if it's easier for you to come off mute, by all means.
Okay, that's better now. Would it be the National Operations Summary?
Okay, so I see several set National Operations Summary. Where would you like me to go? Direct me, guide me. I'm new today. Guide me. Where would you, I did all the talking earlier. Which tab would you like me to go to give the information of the number of elderly and youth shelter residents?
Trying to find it.
Okay.
Working on finding it.
You're working on finding it. Okay. You can also direct me. I have this open right now. So direct me on which tab to click. Anyone else wants to come off mute and contribute?
As I recall, it was in sheltering.
Okay, thank you so much. Sheltering. Okay, now what? Are we staying with the national sheltering analytics or are we going to shelter intake?
To the intake.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you so much, Dave, for say 3 sheltering. Okay, now, of course, it's going to take a little time to load, as we know. So which sub-tab should I click to find out the number of elderly and youth shelter residents? Is it the first tab? Are you seeing anything that will tell us that on the first tab that I'm currently on?
It's the demographics.
Okay,
The second one.
demographics. Okay, great. Do I need to do anything or is this just the number?
It's shown in the bottom left.
Bottom left, okay. So what should I report? The question was the specific county. So County A is requesting the following data, the number of elderly and youth shelter residents. So do I tell them that I have 63 clients? That is 50 to 64? Or do I go here and filter
No,
the county first?
you need to filter it first.
Okay.
Just your DRO.
Okay, so I'm going to pick a random one. I'm going to filter this. This is Sean. Okay. Okay, now, what do you think the definition of elderly is?
65 and up.
Okay. Would you do a follow-up question with the county ELC and say that Are you asking for elderly and 65 and up, or would you do a follow-up question with the county EOC? Or do we just assume that they meant 65 and up?
No, you always ask.
Okay. And for the youth shelter, would you say that, okay, this is 2 people, or would you say that you're going to ask again, as in what's the definition of youth? Is it elementary school? Is it, infant? Like what supplies? Would you do a follow-up?
It's never wrong to ask.
Great, thank you. So now if someone can tell me the number, that how many people do we have between the age 5 to 19?
Sorry, guys, it's too small on my screen. Somebody
Okay.
help.
So on the left lower hand of your Teams, the screen itself, there should be a plus or minus button on it that you can zoom in. This is the
Looks
largest
like
that's the largest I can zoom on my screen, because National Operations Summary does not allow me to zoom to the max. Okay, thank you too.
okay.
Okay, now the county said that, I did the screenshot to them because I don't know what they meant by, youth or whatnot, so I give them the whole breakdown. And now they said, okay, but actually we don't have enough resources or personnel to go to each shelter. So we want to prioritize the one that has the highest population there. Could you give me a breakdown by shelter so they can prioritize the visit? So now what would you do?
Anyone else can pipe in here. Go.
Right, or come off mute. I
You
currently
can.
cannot see my other screen. I can only see the chat. So I cannot see the screen if you're raising your hand or not, but feel free to come off mute.
There's another. There's a. There it is. The second one from the left on the top is
Okay.
by shelter name.
Great. Okay. In this case, we didn't pick a DR that has enough ones, so this is only one. So this is where you would go to prioritize the shelters. Usually when you have a shelter that is large enough, let's see if I can do this. Okay, never mind. So once you have a DR that is large enough that you have multiple shelters, you can come in here and filter that so you're able to see it. So thank you everyone for answering this. Okay, now the next question, we have 4 minutes left. The county animal control wants to know if you have pets in the shelter and their breakdowns. Where would you find that information? Someone say something or type something. I'm going to click on random ones to see that if you see anything on the screen. Does anyone see anything on my screen that can answer this question?
I see the DRO shelter in summary.
Okay. Thank you. I cannot recognize who answered that, but thank you so much. So there's a breakdown by pet type that you're able to see. So you'll see dog, cat, bird, others that you're able to see. You're also able to make it bigger once you find the actual one, and it tells you the breakdown. Okay, now, next question. The county is asking how many shelters you've opened so far for this DR, and how many clients stayed in the shelter. Where do you think you can find that information?
In the sheltering summary.
So you think in here it will tell me. So the question here is, the county is asking how many shelters you've opened so far for the entire duration of this DR, and how many clients stayed in the shelter. Anyone has a different answer than the DRO sheltering summary?
There was a lot of data very quickly. I don't recall the name, but it was the
Okay.
first place that we started that had that summary data.
So it's going to be in the DCOR, the disaster current operations. So if you filter by the DR specific ones, you're able to come in here and to say that we've opened 6 shelters so far and 14, we provided clients with 1,400 shelter stays, including 3 staff shelters, 71 people in the staff. This is to date. Again, the reference here, the key point is you're putting a timestamp on this data and let them know the caveat of this data that is static, that is not live. Okay, I see we have 1 minute left. And one last question is, the county is asking for a live count of the shelter clients, and you couldn't find your HQ master team. Where would you find the information that it's close to your live data?
It's Gaia.
Sky is a good answer. If you have access to Skya. For us studying external relations, we do not have access to Skya. It's not a gap that assigns automatically, unless it's your region that you have access. So think of something different.
The National Operations
Okay.
Summary.
One is you can go to National Operations Summary under the shelter intake, not the analytics. The other one is you can go to the WebEOC that gives you not live, but semi-live that in here that depending on when the ask is. So there are 2 places depending on what specifically they're asking for. Okay, with that, it is 1800. And that's the end of our topic. Any other questions, comments, last minute that you'd like me to address before we conclude the session? Okie dokie. Thank you all so very much. This is recorded. Let me go ahead and stop recording now. And we'll publish this on YouTube so everyone can make references to